Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Anything Liverpool live stream, our very first one in quite a long time. With me, Steve, and I also have Luke here with myself as well, Drew, and I have West. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this Saturday evening where it is just sweltering hot and everywhere but where Drew lives because he thinks he's better than everybody else. But this is I guess you could call it the inaugural live stream of the revamped Anything Liverpool YouTube page and Twitter page. Will be going live multiple times a week. Scheduled TBD at the moment, but most likely looking like it'll be every Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with an additional weekend stream either before or after a game. So if you want to stick around, make sure you jump over to our YouTube channel. So Anything Liverpool on YouTube, and make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure you have your notifications on so that you don't miss out for all future videos and streams. We will be doing an awful lot of pre-recorded content. We'll be doing a lot of streaming content going forward, and we can't wait to get involved with it. Now, topics that we will have for today will be a number of different issues. Obviously, just before we went live, a lot of news dropped in relation to Alexander Isak and Ugo Ekitike. From Luke Edwards, although in my own opinion, he's about as reliable as a woolen condom, so we'll take it with a mountain of salt. But we will basically go around, we'll introduce everybody because some faces might be new, some faces might not be new, and we'll see how everybody's doing on this fine Saturday evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you might find yourself. Luke, first time on stream with yourself, my friend, since joining the Anything Liverpool team. How are you, and how are you feeling about everything that has gone on through the window so far? And obviously, it's been a bit of a shit 2 weeks for Liverpool fans regarding, obviously, the very tragic news recently of Diogo Jota. And it's kind of hard to sort of know what to feel lately, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really difficult. I've sort of distanced myself quite a lot. I don't deal with grief very well. So I live not too far from the ground, but I haven't been over. I've tried to distance myself from a lot of the social media stuff because my way of coping with that sort of stuff is just to try and just get back to normal as soon as possible. But yeah, it's been a really terrible summer considering Liverpool have been really good in the transfer market, which is unheard of in recent years. You know, if we're talking about the emotional standpoint, we've had the stuff with the parade after the parade, you know, and luckily the last person has come out of hospital from that now, and there was no fatalities, which is amazing. And then we've gone on to just have the death of Diogo Jota, which is, you know, I don't want to speak on it too much myself because I don't think it's my place
It's
to speak about
emotional,
it. He gave me tremendous joy as a footballer, but he should be remembered more as the person rather than the footballer, even though that was a massive aspect of his life. I'm sure there are more great stories that are untold about him being a great father and things like that. And then obviously the flip side is Liverpool's business in the window has been probably the best we've seen in years. So we should have been really joyous about that, but it's kind of been taken away a little bit by these events that have happened over the summer. So yeah, looking forward till tomorrow. I'm going down myself, so I'm gonna enjoy it. Nice day in the sun. Hopefully don't get too burned. I'm just looking forward to probably seeing a handful of probably in the region of 20 players all get a good few minutes, and it'll be interesting to see who starts, who doesn't start. But I'm sure we'll get into all that chat in a moment.
Yeah, exactly. Drew, my friend, long time no see, no speak. It's been a while since the two of us have been on a live stream together, obviously, since the departures from our, shall we call them previous employers? They didn't even pay us, so I don't know if you can call them employers. But it'll be interesting. How are you doing with everything? I know, obviously, from being in our group chat and everything, the news of Diogo Jota obviously hit you a little bit hard. I know you took time, maybe not time away, but you weren't as active as you possibly normally are with the banter and everything. A lot of people, it hit differently. But how have you been since the start of the window? Obviously, the stuff with the parade, seeing all the signings come in and getting excited about that, and then obviously the horrible news over the past couple of weeks as well.
Those sort of emotions. Just in the end, it speaks to how worldwide this is. Like a person like Diogo Jota can just affect so many people. And that, as Luke said, it's the person really. Because I think if you're just thinking about the player, it's everything about him. I think the benefits of social media and the content creation is that you got to see Diogo in many videos that showed other sides of him that you don't just see on the field. So for me, as you know, in our chats, like he was one of the players that I always stood up for and always believed in him. No, I'm not the only one, but yeah, it was definitely tough to see. And similar to Luke and I normally withdraw from stuff like that, but I think when it's just everywhere, it's kind of hard to ignore it. And for me personally, it was kind of just giving myself the space to just let whatever emotions come up, and then knowing, I think you just relate to it on a human way, like as a brother, like looking at all those kind of aspects of how it happened, you can just go down like the rabbit hole of emotions there. So, but for me, it was just the support that the club gave and how they handled it has just been top class. I think you see that in so many ways with this club, but you'll never walk alone. This means more, like all those things that speak about the club, they were shown in this case. On the other side of it, the roller coaster of highs, obviously winning number 20, the signings out the door were amazing, and it's kind of tough to get your head around moving forward to the next season. But I do think we are the club, like, want to handle it or how they do handle it. But I just believe that the club as a family just will move forward in some way, and excited to have that support in that Liverpool club.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of them that it will bring everybody closer together rather than seeing everybody move apart more. I think there'll be a more of a heightened sense of motivation next season for them to, I think, I'm not even sure if this hashtag is even trending yet on Twitter, but it's like, I've seen it a lot of places where they'll do it for Diogo, in that he would have wanted them to go out and win and not sort of sit and wallow, so to speak, in their emotions. Yes, feel the emotions, and everybody grieves differently, and it's all valid. But at the end of the day, Diogo would have been one of the first people to get back out on that pitch and go for a win as well at the same time. And I think I can already see it now. The parade next season with the 21st league title and the 7th Champions League, and everybody wearing a Jota 20 shirt. Already, I can already see it happening. It's nearly written in the stars, so to speak. The script writers have gotten it. I say that's a horrible thing to say. The script writers have gotten it right, but it's almost as I said, it's written in the stars that may be the case, that we'll see it in about 12 months' time. We'll all be looking back and thinking that's an absolutely beautiful moment. And obviously, with the family and everything around Anfield and the jersey being retired and the club announcing it at 20:20 p.m. yesterday, UK time, that is, as you said, the club have been absolutely top notch in how they've handled this. And aside from a few online Twitter idiots, I think everybody sort of held the same sort of consensus of take a week, take 10 days, take 2 weeks, and then we'll kind of get back to normal as everything moves on. But yeah, it's been an emotional roller coaster, as you said. West, just to move on to you before we move on to all of the topics of the stream, how have you been doing? How have you found the last couple of weeks? As Drew has mentioned, it's been a bit of a roller coaster of emotions, highs, lows, and sort of everything in between. How have you been, my friend?
I've been okay, I recently graduated,
Oh, congratulations.
I've been doing well. Thank you. Even Drew congratulated me. Thanks, guys. But then, like, to be honest, at the end of the season, I was excited. Like, we got Wirtz, we're getting Kerkez, we're getting from everything. It's the first time where a club of ours can move in that direction, address important situations. We lost Trent, we go bring in a Cam. And then the Jota news hit. And for me, like, I think, like, I took a step back from transfers. Like, I couldn't care less now who we buy. I couldn't even care about the season. I couldn't be asked about the season, to be honest, because now I never experienced this before, This wasn't like, this wasn't like an 8-year-old guy, a former legend of the club. This was a player who was in his prime. He had a wedding, which we were happy for him. He was in his prime. He was 28. He took us to victory, And then this happens, and I was like, okay, like, I didn't know how to deal with the situation because, like, I never experienced this before. Maybe certain people would know what happens when these type of situations. But then for me, it was my first time going through this. A player in his prime. We lost a player. I understand if he left the club, but then for him to pass away the way he did, it was kind of hurting, And like, I couldn't believe it. I was first in denial, and then I saw more tweets. Even the group chat was popping. I was like, nah, that's impossible. I thought Marca got it wrong. Sometimes they get things wrong. Then this, like, oh, okay. And like, yeah, for me, I just felt the pain because, like, we were finally moving like a big club, which we screamed for years and years. When we won the league, then now, instead of us kicking on, we'll go buy certain players that we never needed. And this is the first time ever where we're going to go get that world-class player, Florian Wirtz. And then this Jota news hit, and then I was like, I just pushed myself away from football and transfers. Like, for me, to be honest, I just want to see tomorrow's game and see how the boys are. But then for now, I just don't know, and I couldn't bother myself, you know.
Yeah, no, a lot of people were very much in the same boat, Wes, where this was in many senses of the word bigger than football, and you can see it across Twitter, especially, where pages were posting about Diogo Jota, and then in the replies, people were still going on about transfers, and you're kind of like, shut the fuck up. Like, this is someone's lost two sons, someone's lost a dad, someone's lost a brother, cousins, nephews. Somebody has lost two people that are in that they weren't even 30 years old. They were younger than me, and they're no longer here. And the way in which it happened, and the way in which certain outlets then covered it afterwards, and we won't mention names because, in my own opinion, they're as bad as the scum. And I'm very happy that a lot of Liverpool pages on Twitter have sort of joined together in not posting anything from the Daily Mail. But it's nice to see an entire footballing community outside of the small, loud minority come together and sort of everybody take a week, everybody take 10 days, and then we kind of get back to things as normal after that. I know people grieve differently. There's still people saying that people should be mourning and whatnot, but at a certain point we do kind of need to start moving forward and looking forward, and that is probably the hardest thing to gauge and do right. And as Drew mentioned, I think the club have nailed it. They've done nothing but be completely respectful about it. They've even brought the family to see Anfield, and just the whole of the main stand and around the stadium completely covered in love and respect for Diogo in itself, and all of the stuff that's been left there, from flowers, cards, jerseys, even the fact that kids were bringing a PlayStation controller or a Xbox controller, leaving a note on the controller and leaving it there. Like, to me, and I think, I'm not sure if it was a guy that was on, I'm not sure if it was Paul Mashin that was on the Red Men that said it, but to have a kid be able to process the loss of somebody and the death of somebody like that through the means of a football club and through the means of a gaming console, to me just kind of shows how deep the connection with the club goes and how inspiring these guys are, because a lot of us look at these guys as if they're superhuman, when in reality they're not, unfortunately, as we found out. But we will move on now to the topics of the stream and get into everything going forward. But before we do, we have over nearly 3,000 people currently watching us at the moment across Twitter and YouTube. So if you are enjoying this, please do make sure to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Make sure you have notifications on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out. We will be streaming on a more regular basis going forward, and we are very excited about that, and we hope everybody is along for the ride. The YouTube channel is just starting up, and we're hoping to build it from the ground up, and we're using Twitter as well, so everybody can get a look in. But one of the first topics that we will be getting into is, speaking of strikers, the whole Darwin Nunez debacle regarding his supposed transfer to Napoli. Napoli don't seem to want to pay the fee. Saudi are kind of waiting in the wings. Some people online have argued that maybe we keep him for a year following what's happened. I think that's a very silly argument to make, because the second he misses one chance, the pile-on is going to be absolutely monumental, and nobody needs that. Thirdly, I think he's going to go one way or another, because it's a World Cup year, and he's either going to play or sit on a bench for a year. And in a World Cup year, that's not what a player is going to want to do. Playing 3,000 minutes in the Saudi League is going to be better than playing absolutely nothing for us. Luke, I'll throw it over to yourself first with the whole Nunez situation. Napoli don't seem to be willing to pay the fee that we want. Apparently, De Laurentiis is involved in the deal now, and he is negotiating both with Galatasaray for Victor Osimhen. He seems to want to push him towards going to Saudi, because Saudi apparently are prepared to pay 75 million euros in full this year, whereas Galatasaray want to spread it over a number of years. And thank you so much, Lou. Appreciate you having a look. That's Beyond the Cop. Go follow him on Twitter and YouTube as well. He is a former LFC transfer room star as well, we'll call him, and he's a great lad. Lou's a great lad. But Luke, apologies, to get back to yourself. How do you feel about this Nunez situation? Like, look, I think he's going to go this summer, but it's a matter of where, not if, for me. I think Napoli end up coughing up the cash once they get the cash for Victor Osimhen.
So I think this is where these conversations now become really, really difficult, because it's hard to be viewed as not insensitive, but it's not their insensitive. Sometimes you've got to look at footballers, just who the players are on the sheet. And obviously we've had this tragic loss of Diogo Jota, but now is there a world where Darwin Nunez can leave the club? I really don't think there is. And I think it will be the first situation we were talking about there, about is he likely to sit on the bench? And it probably is. We're coming into a World Cup year. I think he'll play all the minutes for Uruguay anyway in the lead up to that. I don't think he did last season, despite being pretty poor for Liverpool. He played pretty much every game for Uruguay, starting as well. So he's seen as their first choice option, really. With the links to Victor Osimhen and Galatasaray and stuff, I don't think he doesn't want to go there as a player. I don't think that's why they're trying to push him to Saudi. If he did want to go there as a player, he probably would have stayed there, and he would have sort of found out something on the end of the loan deal. Napoli are notoriously hard to negotiate with. Everybody knows this in football. They seem to bring in these amazing fees for players and absolutely rinse everybody, but then will not pay over 30 million for anyone ever. So it'd be really difficult for him to go there. He really suit Napoli, I think, and I think they really get behind him. That explosiveness that he possesses in the Premier League, and we see so often, and he's flying through on goal and he gets all these chances. If he could just stay on side and just have the composure to put them away, he'd be an unbelievable forward. He'd have a little bit more time in the Italian league, and I think he could grow his game in that perspective. But I just don't think it's a realistic move for Liverpool now that he's essentially our only striker option at the moment, besides Jadon Danns, who's just come back from a pretty poor loan spell. So I think he'd be kept around as a backup unless Liverpool are really going to throw the big money at an Isak or a Sesko or something like that. But it looks like it looks like Sesko could be going elsewhere. So I'm really not too sure. I would see a world now where the business is done there in terms of selling him. We're going to have to keep him now. We've sort of been, we're in a bit of a corner with the cards we've been dealt in life, and we're probably going to have to add a first team forward, and he is going to sit on the bench.
Yeah, I'd say personally, I just can't see it, purely for the reason that Slot doesn't rate him as much as I loved him as a player and him as a person. I said it last summer, and Drew can be testament to this because he's had enough back and forth with me about it, that he had 12 months. He didn't impress in the 12 months enough to retain his position. And while I understand the point of Diogo Jota's passing and as tragic as it was, I don't think that changes Liverpool's outlook on it. I think they'll just go and get a backup now. Or possibly they may end up keeping Diaz or Chiesa rather than selling either one of them. Possibly they may just sell Nunez and Diaz, keep Chiesa, who can play versatility across the whole front while having a good preseason as well. Drew, I know we've said it multiple times and it's been a topic of conversation for God knows how many months at this point now, but I don't foresee him being in a Liverpool jersey come the start of the year. If he is, it's because a deal has just dragged on, but once the transfer window ends, I don't see Nunez being here. Are you of a similar opinion to Luke in that, due to the cards that we've been dealt with Diogo Jota's passing, that there is a world now where we don't move on for him, or do you think it's just time for him to go?
Fortunately, I'm on your side on this, Stephen, where it's been 3 years. Last season was the worst year, arguably, and I think towards the end of the season, just seeing how Slot handled it, like he would not start him. If the rumors about the bonus or the clause paid to Benfica are true or not, the fact was that he was fit and he wasn't starting. And I don't see, even with the tragic circumstances, that being another chance for Nunez. Because as you said, when you started the conversation, raising the point of if he misses like a big chance in game 1 or game 2, whatever that is, like the way football is, the pressure is just going to be there. And we've kind of given him a 3-year trial and it hasn't worked out, unfortunately. if we kept him on the bench this year and he had some bit part role, I can't see his price going up from a club perspective. It's just, and player, because as you said, World Cup coming up, it's just best for this time to move on. And I honestly could see if we're at the point where it's like we're not getting the offers from Napoli, or Darwin doesn't want to go to Saudi, which is understandable because I do believe he has the passion and wants to succeed and doesn't want to just like, basically retire early. I could see him getting loaned out to like Atletico Madrid, like that temporary, like here's a year to like get your confidence back and then maybe move on from there. But I just don't see with the club that even with circumstances as they are, to give him another year. It just doesn't fit the player. It doesn't fit the club for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think he's, in my opinion, it's been a very hot and cold stint that he's had. I had all the faith in the world of him. He was very instrumental in getting a number of winning goals for us and winning assists for us this year. The Brentford game, for one, sticks out in my mind. The Southampton game, the PSG game are two other ones as well. But West, with Nunez, it does seem like the writing is on the wall. Is there a world where you see that we keep Nunez, or is this a situation now where the club may go and get a cheap veteran alternative as a backup while getting their new main man as a striker, be it an Isak, be it an Ekitike, be it a Sesko, or be it whoever? What do you think is probably the most likely outcome by the end of the summer transfer window?
To be honest, yeah, like there's like a 50-50 about the situation. There's one of like, okay, Nunes stay in, do it for Jota, and then there's another one like if Nunes misses one chance in a big game, we're gonna be killing him. So it's it's like for me, like you see, Liverpool's not that type of club where they force you out. It's up to you if you want to leave. So if Nunes doesn't want to leave, I hear it, but then now you'll be a bench player, and then when it comes to Udoka, he always starts. He's always a number. He has a number 9 t-shirt. So now look at the situation where when it comes to Nunes, for me, I want him to go personally, because now I think your time is up. We're giving you 3 years and we're still asking questions about you for me, and we spent 90 million on you, 80 to 90. I don't know. People can correct me. Like, so I think I do see him staying, but then I also do see him going. So me, it's like I'm a bit like with the situation.
No, yeah, I completely understand that. It's a strange one, and to be honest, I think it very much is, as Wes mentioned, a complete coin toss. But we move on to the next topic. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos that you never miss out. We'll be streaming across both Twitter and YouTube for the coming weeks and months. So make sure you jump over to our YouTube channel. And speaking of our YouTube channel, we have one comment here that I wanted to sort of touch on, from possibly the funniest name I've seen in a while, the White LeBron. Hi guys, I think it's the final year of Dom, because if not getting enough playing time, he's going to leave. Not a bench warmer type of player, just a sub. Just subscribe and keep up the good work. Thank you so much for the kind words, and thank you so much for the subscription as well on YouTube. Very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Drew, I'll throw it over to you first with this, because this has been a topic of contention amongst many people, where some people think Florian Wirtz is now going to play off the left because he kind of played there in a 3-4-3 for Bayer Leverkusen. I don't see that with us, because if he wanted to do that, I feel like he would have gone to Bayern rather than come to us. I think he's sort of been handed the keys of the offense and has been told, be the center guy, be the quarterback. Everything is going to go through you. You have a free role to go forward, to go backwards, to go left, to go right. We're going to build around you going forward. I think that's what he was sold on. If that does happen, does that now limit the spots for Dominic Szoboszlai, or is there another part of the pitch where Szoboszlai now gets in, maybe in the pivot, maybe on one of the wings? Personally, I don't think there is. I think he'll move to a rotational option.
I think, unfortunately, he's the odd one out here. I think he's going to get game time, though. The amount of games we're going to have this coming season, he's going to get his chance. So if he does want to put his name in the hat for continuing his Liverpool career, this is the season to do it. So kind of like the 12 months is like, how important are you going to be to the club moving forward? He has the skills. Like, we've all seen him show up in games and absolutely dominate. We all know his pressing ability, his legs. He's got a cannon of a shot. You see basically all his best attributes when he plays on the international. squad, but it's kind of bit flashes in the pan for Liverpool. He's always willing to run, though. I feel like that's a minimum for Liverpool in terms of requirements. But yeah, I think it's really up to him this next 12 months to see if he has a future at the club. But he is going to be the odd one out. I don't see him being the starter for Liverpool unless he forces his way back in at this point.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It's, as you said, it's the odd man out. When you look at it from a purely logical perspective, like, we're not spending a British transfer free record on Florian Wirtz to play him out of position, which will be the left wing. That's just not going to happen. He's going to be central, and he's going to just be given the keys and told go. West, how do you see it with Szoboszlai moving forward? Like, tomorrow may be somewhat of an indicator of what we could expect from Florian Wirtz and playing in that sort of a 10 position. I think we're going to see an awful lot of the kids tomorrow, which I don't see as a bad thing. I think we'll see an awful lot of the depth tomorrow. But from play style and tactical standpoint, West, do you see any sort of a place for Szoboszlai to come in and be a starter at Liverpool next season on a consistent basis? Or is he now going to drop to depth and be a rotational option at both the 10, the pivot, maybe the wings, so on and so forth?
That's the thing I want to see tomorrow. I want to see the Texans. Will Slot change tactics to accommodate everyone, or will he stick to the 4-2-3-1? Go straight forward, because now, I know all of us in the group chat have a problem with that, where he doesn't have that creativity, but he has the work rate. So now, if you take a Slot, who's going to be our work rate now? So now, for me, it's a bit of a tricky situation. So that's when I want to see tomorrow, and I look at Slot, like, what you're going to do, because Wirtz is a 10, but he does not have the legs of Szoboszlai who can do the defending, the interceptions, the work was. Remember the Man City game where, like, he ran that game alone by himself and he just crashed out on the floor. Wirtz doesn't have that. Wirtz has the creativity, the technique, the dribbling, but then you see Szoboszlai, your second season, and then we still haven't seen your Leipzig days. We only see like half of it, to be honest. So now I want to see tomorrow what we're Slot going to do in this game. Is he going to play with the 3-5, I don't know, formation to accommodate Szoboszlai and Wirtz, or is he going to stick with his 4-2-3-1? So for me, I'm a bit. It's just like a coin toss here, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it'll depend on the game, because you could. If I'm being perfectly honest, I think it adds a tactical layer to Liverpool that it allows us to attack multiple different teams in multiple different ways. Where when we play against big teams like Man City, like PSG, like Arsenal, like Spurs, because of their play style, like teams that will go at you rather than sit back, Szoboszlai works for those teams. Unfortunately, 80% of the teams we play are not those teams. They sit back and we have to break them down. And that's not Szoboszlai's strength. That is Florian Wirtz's strength, because that's the kind of player he is. Luke, I'll throw the same question to you with regards to Szoboszlai. He showed flashes, as Drew mentioned, flashes in the pan. He has an absolute rocket of a right foot. He runs for days. But it seems like, to me, he's not a 10, so he's kind of playing out of position when he was there for Liverpool. He seems between a 6 and an 8, in my own opinion. In our system, anyway. Not like a double pivot 6 and an 8, where he can play a little bit deeper. Do you see him as that sort of pivot role rotation, where he'd like sub in for McAllister or sub in for Gravenberch, and also play depth for Wirtz, and maybe play depth for the wings? Well, where do you sort of see him?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. What Szoboszlai's got for him is he is extremely versatile. If you look back at his Leipzig days and his Salzburg days, he's played in like a 4-2-2 system. He's played out on the wing. He's played as a false 9. So we can pick up a lot of variety of positions. I can't see him. I'd be surprised if he was going to play the rotational 6 with Gravenberch, or even in a double pivot as that deeper role. He'd likely just be rotating for McAllister wherever McAllister's going to play, and McAllister would then drop into that 6, given if Ryan Gravenberch is injured, or we'll see the introduction of Wataru Endo. Touching on what I think Szoboszlai is going to be, I think it depends what Liverpool do in the transfer market. And, if we're going to bring in a new 9, then Szoboszlai is going to be that player you're talking about, where I can see him sitting on the bench a lot. He'll pick up his minutes, because we're going to have an unbelievable amount of football to play, but he isn't going to be that first choice option where Liverpool aren't gung-ho in the transfer market and we don't bring another forward in. There's an argument there that, we could maybe sit in sort of the midfield and Wirtz might play the false nine, or Wirtz to be in the midfield and he could play the false nine. There's a few avenues there. If we touch back on Man City away, we played this like 4-2-4 sort of variant, didn't we? Where Jones and Szoboszlai sort of led the line. And I could see him maybe going back to that a couple of times. We might see Szoboszlai using that sort of system. But it's one of them. It's all still up in the air. It's going to really depend on what else we do in the transfer market.
Yeah, it absolutely is going to very much depend on what we do in the transfer market going forward. If we sign that 9, as you say, I think he's the odd man out completely. Even as he is now, I think he's the odd man out at the moment. Just looking through a couple of the comments here with Jason asking, think Slot would adapt the attacking role to be more flexible and unpredictable. Salah start on the right, but at times move central. Same for Lucho. Dom and Wirtz will be a double 8. I don't know about a double 8 now, but I can see where you're coming from with that. But with the fullbacks that we have now compared to what we had previously, where both now have massive engines and massive amounts of legs, I think you're going to see an awful lot of Klopp's Liverpool, funnily enough, where you had Robertson and Trent marauding forward quite consistently, but also having the legs to get back before Trent decided to throw on a few kilos and stop running for a couple of years. But it'll be interesting here. We have another comment here saying Ngomna and Doak need to be given a chance. I think Ngomna is a little bit young yet. I think he's just a bit too soon. I don't think his body's ready. I think he's just maybe 2 years off. I think you throw young players in like that, you're going to cause problems straight away immediately, unfortunately. Like, look at Barcelona with all of their young guys and how they've gone about it.
Depends on what you touch on. I could see them both getting minutes tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, they could definitely go on and do a job tomorrow if that's what he means by his comments. But Ben Doak's possibly could be one of the ones looking for a move, dependent on the future of Harvey Elliott. So, yeah. Nagoma, he's not going to play, is he? He's a kid. Be real with it. He's a child. You know what I mean? Get him in that youth league. Get him. If you
want to see how to mismanage youths, just look at Barcelona, and that's the perfect example of how to do it. Like, Lamine Yamal has the same minutes played on his body at the moment at 17 as somebody who's 24. He's going to be broken by the time he's 22. The same with the likes of other players that they have at the minute. I think I'm not sure if it was Opta or somebody else. They'd done the minutes played compared to what would be expected of that age. I think Trent at 26 has played the same minutes as somebody on average will be 32 or 33. I think, where is it? Jude Bellingham at 21 has played the same amount of minutes as somebody at the age of 29, 30, and he's going for shoulder surgery now. And you have Yamal there, 7 years as senior with minutes on his body, and it's only going to start bringing that end date closer and closer and closer. It's not something you rush a young player into when their body isn't ready. Stefan Bajcetic is an example of that, where he had growth injuries last year and just spent the year before, where he spent the whole year basically away, then had a piss poor loan over in Salzburg, which I think was probably the worst move for him, and then went to Las Palmas and was one of the best young midfielders, one of the best midfielders in the league. If you watched him, he was absolutely fantastic. But I digress. We're going to move on now and talk about some defensive contributions and some defensive reinforcements with this new guy from Parma. So make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos. Jump over to our YouTube page. We're going to be streaming every couple of days during the week. Hopefully the streaming schedule is going to be on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, with a weekend stream on top of it with the games. So make sure you subscribe for all of that goodness, and make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos too, so that you never miss out. But in saying that, we will move on now to where we have, now we've breaking news here, and I love when we get this. He's rejected an extension, as Firwan says here. He told Howe, I want to play for Liverpool, and they're looking for his replacement in Ekitike, buying the player first before the sell Ease Act to avoid inflation on Ekitike. Oh, God, I hope that, I wish that was true. But unfortunately, I don't think it is. It'd be brilliant if it was, but I don't think it is. I don't think Isak is going to leave Newcastle. That's my own personal opinion on it. Fight amongst yourselves about that, in my own opinion. But we'll take a look at Giovanni Leoni, who is an 18-year-old, 6'5" centre back that plays for Parma in Serie A currently at the moment. One of the guys that Liverpool have been linked with, and he is an absolute physical monster. West possibly haven't been sort of keeping track of this, obviously, with the situation that's been going on the last couple of weeks, but it is true. I have in the nose. It is very interesting to see us being linked with a young centre back. It was briefed to like the likes of David Ornstein and Paul Joyce and whatnot that we'd be looking at somebody of the same sort of age bracket as Mark Gahey, that 22 to 24-year-old centre back, and we'd also be looking at a young centre back to develop over time too, somebody like a Jarell Hato of that age group. What are your thoughts on our links to this type of a player? And I'll actually get up some of his bits and pieces here now while you're talking, and I'll see if I can share the screen. So,
To be honest, yeah, I don't.
let us know your thoughts on
I
it,
don't
West,
know
as
the
it is
player,
like
to be
kind of a young centre back.
To be honest,
I'll see if I can
yes,
get him
I
here
think
actually, and I'll
I
give
think
you a bit of
to be honest, it's actually a good idea. But then, like, I never seen the player before. I never heard of him. I only saw it in the group chat, but I took it as a pinch of salt. So, to me, it's a good idea of us trying to, like, the age of our squad, make it a bit younger to add a little bit of youth in the team. But then, like, I don't know about the player. Like, I never seen him before. It's my first time hearing about him, and I hope he joins us and he does well, to be honest.
Yeah, looking at his comparisons here on what's the website, FBREF, he's sort of they're comparing him to the likes of, now this obviously might not be the greatest of comparisons, but Connor Cody is one of them. Jean-Claire Tobido is another one. Javi Sanchez with Valladolid is another one. There's not some great comparisons here, I won't lie. It's a shame this isn't loading up for me, I'm afraid, but it is what it is. Hopefully it'll load up in a minute. Maybe it's just that it's slow. But Drew, how do you feel about this sort of a link with a young centre-back to develop, especially following the departure of Jarell Kwanzaa on what is essentially a glorified loan?
It's kind of the thinking process from my point of view is that we've gotten rid of Kwanzaa, like a young project center back, and then this seems to be the next step forward for that. Kind of depends if we get Gahey or not, depends on if Konate leaves, like a lot of ifs, but getting a young, promising center back's never a bad thing. Like I know we got Sepp Vandenberg. That didn't quite work out in the beginning, like when we brought him in on such high potential, and then it was kind of like I think he played that game Aston Villa when we were in the Club World Cup, and we had like the 2 games in like 2 days, and it was just on the bad hand of a 6-1 loss. But it didn't look great at the beginning, but he had his loan moves, and then preseason last year did really well, got his move to Brentford, looked really good in my opinion. So I think it's that kind of signing where you just pick somebody who has like a lot of potential, good deal, good price, get him in the squad, see how he adapts. And then for me, always an added bonus is if Chiesa gets an Italian buddy. Like I feel like the club tries to get some support in terms of players from different nationalities, like having somebody to bond with. And I think Chiesa could probably use another Italian if he's here to stay, to not get the like the da from all the other lads in the squad. At least somebody who can culturally relate to him. So yeah, I think it's an interesting look. Like Wes, I don't know much about him firsthand other than what I quickly looked up after hearing about it. But you know, this guy's physical monster at 6'5", 18 years old. Saw that his kind of breakthrough season, 14 starts, 1 goal. So yeah, like if the deal is there, good price, why not?
Yeah, it's I have his numbers up here now, and I'm going to share them on the screen in a moment, compared to the likes of a Gahey, just to give you a sort of idea of what he's kind of like as a player. And I'll get Konate in there as well, just to sort of give a comparison across the 3. So if you give me 2 seconds, I'm going to see if I can share the screen here. So hopefully I can. Oh, I can. This is just like, I'm going to assume everybody's going to be able to see this now. Hopefully. There we go. That is beautiful. Oh, God, I missed this. So this is Data MB. This is a website that I have, or not that I have, I don't own it or anything like that. This is a website that I use in relation to checking up on statistics of players and sort of how they profile. And this is their centre-back profile of what they would sort of deem as important. You obviously have your aerial duels, your carrying, your passes, your forward passes, progressive passes, possessions won, and then you have your duel percentage one. As you can see, we have Leone here in blue. Not exactly the biggest of on-ball threats when you look at it on the face of it. And you have Mark Gahey, who is a bit of a better on-ball threat. He wins possession a lot. He plays a lot of progressive passes. His forward pass percentage, if you think about it, though, on a Palace team, it's expected to be kind of that low. And then you have Ibrahima Konate, defensive duel monster, aerial monster, brilliant at carrying and everything else. He doesn't win awful lot of possession, but there's a reason for that, is because Liverpool don't really spend that much time defending, whereas obviously a team like Palace and a team like Parma would spend an awful lot more time defending. Having looked at this, Luke, do you see the potential there, or is this a bit of a weird link for you?
Given Liverpool's homegrown dilemma as such at the moment, where we're running out of homegrown slots, I do think it's a bit of a weird link, and it's someone who we probably bring in and load straight back out and keep an eye on. He won't be able to get homegrown status in the Premier League either, will he? Because he's too old.
Yeah.
It's 36 months. He's already 19, so he'll be 21 before that 3 years kicks in. But don't get me wrong, you know, I think he's played 18 games for his team this year, and Liverpool usually look to be looking at that 100, 150 game mark before we're sort of looking at players, especially coming in. So it definitely one we're going to bring in and probably loan back out a very similar situation to Sepp van den Berg. But his numbers do look promising. What sort of my question sort of is probably what I'm looking for is, the club must be assuming this man's so much better than the likes of Luka Pitt and Nalo, who we've seen feature against PSV, who are Liverpool's two sort of young prospect centre-backs at the minute, and one of them's going to have to assume that position of Jarrell Quansah as the homegrown young lad who's probably going to be introduced to the first team and won't get a lot of minutes and will probably play the odd Carabao Cup game unless we go through some sort of injury crisis. He must be a lot better than them if we're going to be linked in and we're going to keep him around. So I think it's a bit of an unusual link. It's very sort of Chelsea move, isn't it? If we're going to bring someone in to loan them straight back out. But let's see what happens. Maybe the club knows something we don't know. Maybe this lad's got a really low release clause. Maybe we can get him for a really low fee, something like that.
Yeah. Like if we could get him for a low fee, I can see why it would work. Now, if you look on FBRF, I'll share this tab instead here and you can kind of see. So the only worry I would have is his passing. But what I find really interesting about it is if you look here with his pass completion, right? His passing numbers is purely because Parma sit without the ball quite a lot. So he'd basically be parking the bus a lot. So he defends way more than he has. He's on the ball, hence why his numbers. But to show you how mad these are, so it's here, it's just 87% of a pass completion, and his passing percentages are ridiculously high across the board. Not plus 90 plus, 90 plus, 60 plus. Virgil van Dijk's is the same. The only difference is that his actual attempts and completions are higher, so he's a higher volume. But to show you the difference of how big a percentile jump it is, Virgil van Dijk's total pass completion is 91%, so it's 4% higher than this, and he's in the 89th percentile, just to show you how big of a jump that would be. So the passing numbers, if you look into it properly, are really not as bad as you would expect. It's purely a product of the system that he's in at Parma at the moment, just because of how little they have the ball. I think of all 50-odd games they had this season, they had the ball more than 50% of the time in 6 of them. They're very much a bottom tier team that would spend most of the time defending. And thankfully, one thing that you can look at is you can't teach the physical aspect of football, but you can teach the technical aspect of it. So teaching him the system and teaching him the passing structures and everything will be a much easier job than trying to teach him how to beat a man in a header when he's already fairly prolific at doing that. So it'll be interesting to see how things go. Hopefully we do get a centre back in like him, because somebody like Jarell Hato, if I can see if I can actually get Jarell Hato's HATO. Does it come up? Yeah, it does indeed. If I got Jarell Hato added in there as well, my God. I'm going to go back to Data MB. So we'll take away Ibrahima Konate, and there's Jarell Hato. And if I actually put in Ibrahim Konate alongside him, that is eerily similar as a centre back. That is eerily similar. So as well as Jarell Hato being left-footed, it'll be very interesting to see how this develops. But in saying that, I'm not sure who we target as a centre back now, because the Ibrahim Konate situation is just completely up in the air at the minute. Nobody knows what's going on with that at the moment. But we'll see how that plays out. I'll just have a look through a couple of the comments here, and we'll go over the next 15 minutes of having a look at these. But before we do, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure that you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out. Please do jump over to our YouTube channel. We have nearly 5,500 people currently watching us as it is across YouTube and Twitter. We very much appreciate some love on the YouTube channel. Subscribe there. We're going to be having a lot more pre-recorded content coming out, a lot more player analysis coming out. We'll have deep dives into the likes of Kerkez and how he's going to fit into the Liverpool squad, Frimpong and how he's going to fit into the Liverpool squad, because that's going to be a really interesting one. Is he going to be a right back? Is he going to be a right wing back? Are we going to a back three? That's what a lot of people thought with the Gahey links. I don't think we will, because it's something Slot has never really done. I say a back three on paper. We're not going to do that, I don't think. May fall into that in actual possession, where Gravenberch will drop back deep. And also we'll be looking at how Florian Wirtz is basically going to help us win number 21 and number 7. So make sure you like and subscribe and have your notifications on for all of that goodness. But I'll have a look down here through a couple of these comments and everything like that. And we're going to see if there's anything interested here. Rottweiler owner mentioning here, we need a centre midfielder who will compete with / cover for McAllister and Gravenberch, a Baleba, a Wharton, or a Stiller. The drop-off will be the drop-off we get with the massively overrated, geez, poor Curtis Jones catching strays and we're not even playing yet. The drop-off we have with massively overrated Jones is huge. Now, I don't rate Curtis Jones all that highly myself, personally. I think he's a fantastic squad player. I don't think he's a starter. I think he's hit his ceiling. Now, I'm happy for him to prove me wrong, but so far this season he hasn't. He's been very inconsistent, unfortunately, in my own opinion. But Drew, I'll throw it over to you. Do we need another centre midfielder, or do you think the likes of Bajcetic coming through, James McConnell being so favoured by Slot, we then have the likes of Florian Wirtz now that will push Szoboszlai possibly back to that pivot? Do we need another defensive midfielder or even a midfielder at all? Because ironically now we seem fairly overstocked in that department.
Priority on our list for players to get in, especially somebody like a Baleba, because that's like starter. I think our starting center midfielders won us the Premier League last year. We're adding to that year older, like in the Slot system. I think he's got the tools he needs to get it done again. And there's just areas of the pitch like center back where we're not sure with Konate. Up top, obviously striker. There's a lot of ifs and buts going on without knowing who's out the door yet. So one thing for certain is like we have enough bodies in the midfield where I don't think it's high up on the priority list, at least this season.
Yeah, it's one where I think we're well stocked. Ironically, considering the last number of years we've been crying for a CDM, and now we have about 5 of them on the team. Luke, how do you feel about that sort of a comment? Do we need somebody of a Baleba, Wharton, or Stiller sort of ilk, or do you think the likes of McConnell are going to get an awful lot more minutes? Somebody I'm very excited to see tomorrow actually as well, with James McConnell getting into some game time, because he was so favoured by Slot, and Slot, I think it was the only real person of the youngsters that Slot properly praised in public. Poor Nalo got absolutely rinsed after his game in the Champions League. But how do you feel about us not getting a midfielder? Is there more concerning issues that we need to address, such as striker, maybe even left wing if Diaz goes, centre back depth with the unknown about Ibrahim Konate, and obviously Kwanzaa leaving us as well? What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I wouldn't mind a new midfielder with you. That's probably the way you've got to go with it, isn't it? But prioritisation-wise, the forward's the main one, isn't it? You want a new striker, and then probably want a new centre-back before we get a midfielder, and that's generally just because if you look at the whole base thing, any injuries in them sorts of positions, it's going to really hurt us. You know, if Virgil van Dijk gets injured for 2 months and we're playing the back line of Konate and Gomez, you know, Gomez can play 2 games and he needs a rest. He can't play midweek Champions League on the weekend, midweek Champions League on the weekend again. it'll burn him out, and it's something we've seen time and time again. When he gets some string of games, he just can't handle it. So I think we probably need, a centre back and a forward first of all. However, to move away from that point is, if we had a big injury last year in midfield, we could have been in big trouble. We really could have been. If we were looking at Ryan Gravenberch being out for a long period, or Alexis McAllister being out for a long period, we would have been in a lot of trouble. And Jones come in quite a lot when we did have small sort of minor injuries, but 2 injuries in that midfield at the minute, and it's not looking good, to be honest. Dependent on where Florian Wirtz is going to play. If Florian Wirtz is going to play in that sort of double 8 and sometimes track a little bit deeper, then we might be okay. So it's dependent on Slot sort of system, what system Slot wants to play. If he's going to play the similar system to what we have played last season, we probably don't need to bring in a new forward. We can probably get scraped by with Jones. We've got Endo. We've added Florian Wirtz. Then we've got Szoboszlai and Maka for rotation. We're fine there. If Maka's going to play further forward, we probably do maybe need another 6. And let's not forget, last year we were adamant on buying a 6 because no one thought Ryan Gravenberch was going to be this good. And we were about having the 2 of them to rotate that position. So let's see what the club throw us. You'd like a 6, wouldn't you? But on the prioritisation list, I'd probably say it's towards the bottom of mine.
Yeah, I think it would, and I think it's towards the bottom of the clubs as well, because obviously, as you said, very few people saw the potential in Ryan Gravenberch and how he would develop in that sort of a role, who was the best player on the planet for the guts of 20 games, the first 20 games last season, then kind of obviously tailed off as he played 90 minutes every game. But your 7 out of 10 performances are going to look terrible when you've been dropping 10 out of 10 performances in a row. Personally, I think we're going to sort of develop and produce more in the line of the likes of Stefan Bajcetic and James McConnell to help with those non-homegrown and homegrown numbers. And they're 2 youngsters that I am very, very much looking forward to. If you watch Stefan Bajcetic at all in Spain with Las Palmas, he is basically another Ryan Gravenberch. And I cannot wait to see him come in. He can play that sort of 8-6 and then a centre back role the whole way sort of along that spine. I'm very excited to see him come through. Fortunately, did have a bit of an injury towards the end of the season, but if memory serves, I've seen a couple of videos around the stadium today and he's there in full kit. No straps, no braces, no nothing on him. So it could be very much that he's recovered very quickly from that, or maybe the injury wasn't as bad as we thought it was. But I'd be excited to see him and get a full preseason under him. Wes, to finish us off before we finish up for this evening, what are your thoughts on the midfield depth as it is at the moment? Do Liverpool need to prioritise elsewhere? Do we need to get another midfielder? Or how do you see the rest of the transfer window playing out?
I think we need to get another midfielder, to be honest. Can you guys hear me? Because my screen just froze, to be honest. Oh, okay, no problem. I think we need to get another midfielder because, like, for me, the game I remembered where I saw Gravenberch go down was the game against PSG at Paris, where, like, the midfielder just ran through him, and which I was like, okay. Then, like, there's a player which I like from Italy, and I thought me and you, Steven, we did talk about him, Ravioli, something like that. The Lazio midfielder, Juventus from loan.
Arthur. He played more minutes at Anfield for Barcelona than he did for Liverpool.
No, not Arthur. There's a midfielder from Italy, the Lazio one. I think that one can be better cover. Because, like, for me, I always remember last season where we're doing so well, and then against that PSG game, that big game, we actually tailed off. And I think Liverpool this season will go further in the Champions League, and we need more depth. So that's why, if, like, we don't get the depth, I hope to see the guys in preseason, like the McConnells, the Bajcetic, and the Tenoris, all those guys, and then I can judge. But then for now, I'm just.
Oh, is he gone? I think he's gone. That's a shame.
Yeah, I think he was
lean over
touching
there,
on
Drew.
Nicolo. Yeah, I think he was touching on Nicolo Ravella.
I know who you're on about. Yeah.
Yeah, and Ravella's he's heavily linked for the move within Italy, isn't he? Towards either Inter Milan or Juventus, but he's got a release clause. I think it's 40 or 50 million euros.
Yeah. Is that who you're on about from
Hoover?
Rovella, is it, Wes?
Yes,
is that the guy that you're on about?
Yes.
Yeah. I like him too. I think he'd be good too. Is he one of the guys that you'd like to see us maybe pursue? I don't think we need a centre midfielder, but, like, do you think we need cover? Because as it stands, if you think about it from the depth perspective, at the 10 we have Florian Wirtz, Now, this is before anybody leaves, mind you. We have Florian Wirtz, Harvey Elliott, Dominic Szoboszlai. There's 3 for that position alone. Then for the pivot, we have Gravenberch, McAllister, Jones, Endo, Szoboszlai now, since he'd be dropping back to it. And then you can add in nearly Stefan Bajcetic and James McConnell into that sort of hybrid 6-8 role that'll be there. So there's the guts of 10 players that we currently have for before outgoings, mind you. This could be Harvey Elliott could leave, and maybe we do need an extra body. But in terms of squad depth as it is, you have your 3 main guys as a starter, and then your backup 3 would essentially be Bajcetic, Szoboszlai, Harvey, and maybe throw Endo in there as well, and then you have McConnell in there, and then you, as you said, you have Trey Neone that can come in and play games too, in the cup games too. So I think there's enough cover there to get us across the lower tiered cup games to keep us fresh for those bigger games. Or do you still think that we need somebody else, West?
You see, my point is that I'm looking at the preseason, because that's what we thought.
Okay.
Like the Brentford guy, our midfielder, our number 10. His name was Fabio Carvalho. We thought he was that guy, and then he got sold. So I'm looking at preseason where if these guys don't perform the way we need them to perform, I think we need to bring another midfielder, to be honest, or loan them out. And like Stefan, yes, they're all good midfield, but I'm waiting for preseason to see how they're going to do. And if they don't do well, we're going to need to bring like at least another midfielder there to just try and like boost it, because now the Italian midfielder had been playing in Lazio. He's a first-team player. He reached the semi-finals of the Europa League. Oh no, he reached the quarterfinals of Europa League as a starter. He's done well in Lazio. So I look at him as like he can be the needle mover. Not the needle mover, but then someone that if like McAllister drops off, I wouldn't be worried about Curtis Jones. Let's say Nico Duhaviola would come on. That's what I mean.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you. Look, we will sort of have to see how they play out in preseason, because obviously last year we seen Fabio Carvalho ball out a little bit and then all of a sudden shipped off and hasn't really done anything for Brentford since. And we obviously also seen Sepp Vandenberg leave as well, although he's played an awful lot better for Brentford than Fabio Carvalho has done. I think the Fabio Carvalho thing was more of an attitude problem rather than a player quality problem, and he had that attitude when he was over in was he with Leipzig as well, or was he with Salzburg? I can't remember. He was
loaned over to Leipzig.
Yeah, I was thinking that's what it was. I need a piss poor attitude over there too, apparently. And then his dad obviously commenting on things now as well, or his brother or something too, which is just a mad one. But we are going to finish it there, guys. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We have nearly 7,000 people watching us, so please make sure to like and subscribe. If you're watching currently on Twitter at the moment, we would very much appreciate you jumping over to our YouTube channel, Anything Liverpool. You can find us on YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe. We'll have a lot more content coming out over the next couple of days. Really appreciate everyone for joining us. Make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos as well. From myself, Luke, Drew, and Wes, we want to thank everybody for coming, and we hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their weekend.